I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine you are standing in the checkout line at your local grocery store. It is a Tuesday evening, you are tired from work, and you just want to get home to your family. You look down at your cart. You have grabbed a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, a carton of eggs, maybe some ground beef for dinner. You get to the register, you scan your card, and you see the total. The number on that screen is nearly double what it was just a few years ago. You feel that sinking sensation in your stomach. It's that quiet panic that keeps you awake at 2 a.m. It is the feeling that no matter how hard you work, no matter how much overtime you put in, or how diligently you save for your children's future, you are slowly, mathematically falling behind. The cashier looks at you, you pay the bill, and you walk out wondering how everyone else is surviving. You are told by the news anchors and the politicians that this is just transitory inflation. They tell you it is because of supply chains or corporate greed or a temporary war overseas. They tell you to just tighten your belt and wait for things to go back to normal. They are lying not just about the price of eggs, but about the very nature of the money in your pocket. The reason your paycheck does not stretch as far as your father's did is not an accident, and it is not temporary. It is the direct mathematical result of a secret handshake made in a dark room 50 years ago, a deal that allowed America to live in a financial fairy tale for half a century. But today, the engine that kept that dream alive is sputtering. Welcome back to Economic Historian. We are going to walk through the secret meetings, the assassinations, and the shadow wars that kept the dollar on the throne. We are going to expose the silent death of the petrodollar, and most importantly, we are going to look at exactly what happens to you, your savings, and your family when the king finally falls. To understand why your grocery bill is skyrocketing today, we have to travel back in time to a moment of total American desperation. The year is 1974. The glory days of the 1950s are dead and buried. The country is bleeding. 3 years earlier, in 1971, the United States shocked the world by defaulting on its promise to redeem dollars for gold. Up until that point, every dollar in your pocket was a claim check for physical gold in Fort Knox. But we had printed too many paper checks to pay for the Vietnam War and the Great Society welfare programs. The dollar crashed. Fathers were fighting each other at gas stations just to fill up their tanks to get to work. The American economy looked like it was heading for a total collapse. You probably haven't heard of him, but William Simon is the man who arguably saved the American empire for another 50 years. He was the newly appointed Treasury Secretary, a brilliant, chain-smoking bond trader from Wall Street who understood one thing better than anyone else: debt. In July 1974, the White House sent Simon on a secret diplomatic mission to Saudi Arabia. The press was told it was a standard meet and greet, but the real mission was a matter of national survival. His orders were blunt and terrifying: do not come back empty-handed. Failure would mean the Soviet Union wins the Cold War and the American economy implodes. Simon flew to the coastal city of Jeddah and sat down with the Saudi royal family to make them an offer that sounds like something out of a mafia movie. The deal was simple but revolutionary. Part 1. The United States would guarantee the survival of the House of Saud. We would sell them the most advanced military weapons on Earth fighter jets, tanks, missiles. We would be their bodyguard in a very dangerous neighborhood. If anyone looked at them the wrong way, Uncle Sam would step in. In exchange, Saudi Arabia had to do two things. First, they had to use their dominant position in OPEC to ensure that every single drop of oil sold anywhere in the world was priced in US dollars. Not German marks, not Japanese yen, and certainly not gold. If Japan wanted energy, they had to buy US dollars. It's created a permanent, artificial demand for the US dollar that would never go away. But there was a catch, and this is the genius stroke that explains why America has been able to borrow so much money. The Saudis were about to make trillions of dollars selling this oil. Simon convinced them to take those billions of petrodollars and immediately invest them back into the United States. Specifically, they would buy U.S. Treasury bonds. They would use their oil profits to fund America's national debt. Think about the elegance of this scam. We print paper dollars to buy their oil. They take those paper dollars and lend them back to us so we can buy more oil. It was a perpetual motion machine of wealth extraction. America got oil for free, and the rest of the world paid for it by dealing with the inflation. This handshake in Jeddah was the birth of the petrodollar. It stabilized the U.S. currency, it funded our military expansion, and it allowed American families to consume far more than we produced for 5 decades. It was the greatest economic moat ever built. But moats dry up, and alliances crumble. For 40 years, this system worked because it relied on one crucial psychological pillar: trust. Trust that the U.S. will pay its debts, and trust that the dollar will hold its value. But most importantly, the world trusted that the U.S. financial system was neutral. The dollar was like a public utility. It was the plumbing of the world, and the U.S. was just the plumber. The water company doesn't shut off your water just because they don't like your politics. But in the early 2000s, we started messing with the plumbing. We started deciding who could drink the water and who died of thirst. We weaponized the dollar. We saw this first with Saddam Hussein. In 2000, Iraq made the bold decision to stop selling oil in dollars and started selling it in euros. At the time, people laughed, but when the euro rose in value, Saddam started making a fortune. This was a threat of contagion. OPEC realized they could make more money selling in euros. The demand for dollars would evaporate, and the U.S. economy would collapse. Shortly after, the U.S. invaded Iraq. The very first economic decision the American occupiers made was to switch Iraqi oil sales back to the U.S. dollar. The message to the world was clear: leave the dollar and we will come for you. We saw it again in Libya with Muammar Gaddafi, who planned to create a gold-backed currency called the dinar to unite Africa and bypass the dollar. He was removed and his gold vanished. But the final straw, the moment the Petrodollar System truly broke, happened in February 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. The United States and its allies decided to unleash the financial nuclear option. They didn't just sanction a few oligarchs. They froze the sovereign reserves of the Central Bank of Russia. Russia had saved up over $600 billion in reserves, money they earned by selling oil and gas to the world. They thought this money was safe in Western banks. Over a single weekend, the U.S. and Europe seized half of it. The narrative in the West was triumphant, but the message received by the rest of the world was chilling. Imagine if your local bank manager told you that because he didn't like who you voted for, your life savings were gone. Would you keep banking there? Saudi Arabia thought, if we disagree with American foreign policy, our money is gone. By weaponizing the dollar so aggressively, we broke the cardinal rule of banking: neutrality. We turned the dollar from a safe haven into a trap. This brings us to the rise of the new order. While American politicians argue on Twitter, the rest of the world is building a lifeboat. It is called BRICS, an alliance, originally made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. For years, Western economists dismissed them as a talk shop. This group now controls the majority of the world's oil, manufacturing, and population. China is leading this charge with a mechanism that should terrify every U.S. Treasury bondholder. For years, oil producers didn't want to accept Chinese yuan because it is a currency controlled by the Communist Party. They launched the Shanghai International Energy Exchange, which allows oil producers to sell oil for yuan, and then immediately within seconds convert that yuan into physical gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This is the golden loophole. It creates a gold standard for trade that Washington cannot touch, cannot sanction, and cannot freeze. This is why central banks around the world are buying gold at the fastest pace in history. They're trading their paper dollars, which are essentially IOUs from a bankrupt government, for the only asset that has no counterparty risk. Even our old friends, the Saudis, have publicly stated they are open to trading oil in currencies other than the dollar. The exclusive marriage of 1974 is over. This brings us to the monster under the bed. The threat isn't just foreign, it is domestic. The greatest enemy of the U.S. dollar is not in Beijing or Moscow. It is in Washington, D.C. We have racked up $35 trillion in national debt. That is a number so large the human brain literally cannot comprehend it. If you counted to 1 million, it would take you about 11 days. If you counted to 1 trillion, it would take you 31,000 years. We owe 35 of those. For decades, politicians told you this number didn't matter because interest rates were at zero. We could print money to pay the bills, and nobody noticed. That era is over. To fight inflation, the Federal Reserve had to raise interest rates. Now, the interest payments on our national credit card have exploded. In 2024, the United States government hit a terrifying milestone. For the first time in history, we spent more on interest payments on the national debt than we spent on the entire national defense budget. Read that again? We are spending more just to service the debt of the past than we are to protect our children in the future. We are spending more on interest than on Medicare. This creates what economists call a debt spiral. The government has to borrow more money just to pay the interest on the money it already borrowed. It is a Ponzi scheme. The only way out is to print more money. This is why your grocery bill is skyrocketing. It is not just corporate greed, it is currency debasement. When the government prints $1 trillion to pay its bills, it dilutes the value of every dollar you worked for. It is a hidden tax. They are stealing the value of your labor before the check even hits your bank account. And unlike income tax, you cannot vote against it, and you cannot evade it. Here is the nightmare scenario that keeps honest economists awake at night. It is called the reflux. To understand this, you have to realize that America's biggest export for the last 50 years hasn't been cars or movies. It has been inflation. We print dollars, and we send them overseas to buy cheap goods. Those dollars stay overseas in foreign bank vaults, greasing the gears of global trade. There are trillions of these eurodollars floating around outside the United States. As long as they stay out there, they don't cause hyperinflation here. They are like water behind a dam. But what happens if the dam breaks? What happens if the world decides they don't want to hold dollars anymore? What happens if Saudi Arabia, China, and Brazil all decide to dump their dollars at the same time? Those dollars have nowhere to go but home. They will come flooding back into the American domestic economy. But they won't just sit in cash. These foreign entities will want to trade that dying paper for something real before it loses all its value. Imagine a tsunami, but instead of water, it's cash. Trillions of dollars flooding back into the U.S. to buy American farmland, American real estate, American factories, and American companies. You will have trillions of new dollars chasing the same amount of goods. This triggers the kind of inflation where prices don't just go up 5% a year, they double. A loaf of bread goes to $20. A gallon of gas goes to $15. This is the third worldification of the American economy. It wipes out the middle class. It destroys pensions. It punishes the savers who follow the rules and rewards the debtors. And if you are holding all your wealth in paper assets like bonds or cash savings, you are standing directly in the splash zone of this tsunami. I know this is heavy. It is terrifying to realize that the ground beneath your feet, the very money you use to feed your children, is shifting. But I want you to take a deep breath. Panic is not a strategy. Preparation is. You cannot stop the global financial system from changing. You are not the Federal Reserve chairman, but you can build an ark for your family. The death of the petrodollar doesn't mean the world ends. It means the rules of the game are changing. If you know the new rules, you can protect what you have built. Here is your playbook for the post-dollar era. Step 1. Fire your mental accountant. Stop measuring your wealth in dollars. If your house goes up in price from $400,000 to $600,000, but a loaf of bread costs twice as much, you didn't get richer. Yes. The dollar just got weaker. Yes. Stop chasing more dollars and start chasing purchasing power. Step 2. You must own real assets. Paper money is a promise. Real assets are facts. In a world of inflation, you want to own things that cannot be printed. Look at productive land. Look at rental real estate with fixed-rate debt. If you have a 30-year mortgage at 3% interest, do not pay it off early. Inflation makes that debt cheaper for you to pay back over time. The bank is effectively paying you to live there. But avoid variable debt like credit cards. That is financial suicide. Step 3. The ultimate insurance. You need to be your own central bank. Look at what the nations of the world are doing, not what they are saying. They are buying gold. Allocating 5% to 10% of your net worth to physical gold and silver is uninvesting to get rich. It is insurance to stay rich. It is wealth that exists outside the digital banking system. If the power goes out, or the internet goes down, or the bank freezes your account, a gold coin in your hand is still money. It is the only financial asset that is not someone else's liability. Step 4. Invest in the ultimate asset yourself. In a volatile world, the only asset that cannot be taxed, confiscated, or inflated away is your skill set. The ability to fix things, to grow food, to solve complex problems, to build networks of trusted friends. In a fractured world, community is the ultimate safety net. The neighbor who knows how to repair a generator is worth more than the neighbor with $1 million in a frozen bank account. The petrodollar era gave us 50 years of easy living. It allowed us to be the superpower, but nothing lasts forever. The 1974 handshake is broken. The page is turning. You can choose to ignore this. You can hope that the politicians in Washington will fix it, even though they are the ones who broke it. Or you can look at the reality, look at your children, and decide to take control. The transition will be messy. There will be winners and losers. The losers will be the ones holding the bag of paper promises. The winners will be the ones holding hard assets and independent minds. Don't let your family's future be dictated by a failing system. If you found value in this deep dive, do me a favor. The algorithm hates long, complex truths like this. It prefers 10-second dances. So if you want to support real financial education, hit that like button. It actually makes a difference. And tell me in the comments, what is one step you are taking today to secure your family's future? Are you buying gold? Are you learning a new skill? Let's talk about it. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and keep building. I'm an economic historian, and I'll see you in the next one.